I want to read you something. I get thousands of comments on the channel. Some of them are questions, some of them are haters, and some of them are people just venting. But every once in a while, I get a comment that stops me in my track. I get a comment that cuts through all the noise and hits on the exact root cause of why this industry is falling right now. I got a comment from a gentleman. Shout out to West Point Taxi 914. He said he's in his late 60s. He's an older gentleman, a veteran of the road. He's seen the industry in the 1970s, the 1980s, and the 1990s. And he looks at what is happening today, the cheap freight, the broken borders, the lack of respect, and he says something profound. He said, back then, we didn't have this. Back then, you couldn't get any assistance to get a CDL if you weren't supposed to be here. Back then, we looked out for our children to have jobs. We didn't want people kidnapping positions meant for our kids. I want to unpack this comment today because this just isn't an old head talking about the good old days. This is a warning. This is a man telling us that the barrier to entry, the thing that protected our rights and our dignity, has been systematically destroyed. Let's talk about the first thing he mentioned, the CDL. He said, do you know you cannot get any assistance to get a CDL back in the days? Think about what that means. In the 1970s and 80s, obtaining a commercial driver's license was a badge of honor. It was a trade. It was a skill that you had to earn. You had to speak the language. You had to know the regulations. You had to demonstrate that you were a professional. There was no CDL mills in the 1980s. You couldn't walk into a shady office in Chicago with $500 cash and walk out with a license to drive 80,000 pounds. You couldn't have someone else take that test for you. Because the barrier to entry was high, the rates were high. It is basic economics. When it is hard to become a truck driver, the people who are truck drivers get paid what they are worth. But look at today. The government, the mega carriers, and the lobbyists decided that earning it was too hard. They decided they wanted cheaper freight. And the only way to get cheaper freight was to flood the market with drivers who didn't have to earn it. They lowered the standards. They looked the other way on English proficiency. They started subsidizing training programs. And now you have a steering wheel holder in the lane next to you who can't read the sign, who doesn't know how to back up, and who is willing to haul a load for $1.20 a mile because he didn't have to sacrifice anything to get into that seat. The gentleman in the comments is right. In the 1970s, if you were here illegally, you weren't driving the truck. You weren't getting a license. The system wasn't set up to help you replace an American worker. But today we have nonprofits, government grants, and mega carriers actively recruiting people who just got here. We are paying for our own replacement. He mentioned something else that really stuck with me. He talked about the containment. He said maybe in California, but once you left California, you were on your own. You couldn't buy a house. You couldn't get car insurance. You couldn't get food stamps. This is a crucial point. 30 years ago, if there was an issue with illegal labor, it was regional. It was contained. If you were running freight in Iowa or Ohio or Georgia, you were competing against other American owner-operators. The playing field was level, but the containment line has broken. We just saw the news out of Indiana, 146 illegal drivers arrested in one weekend. We saw the news out of Kansas, a terrorist suspect caught with a Pennsylvania CDL. The California problem is now an America problem. The gentleman said the old police officers would never accept what's happening today. And he's right. Law enforcement used to be the guardians of the highway. If you didn't belong, if you didn't have your paperwork, you were parked, you were done. Today, we have sanctuary states issuing driver's license to anyone who asks. We have a federal government that sues states when they try to enforce the law. We have a DOT that is more concerned with the font size on your door decal than whether the driver can actually speak English. We have normalized the abnormal. And because we normalized it, we destroyed the middle class of trucking. The most heartbreaking part of this comment was at the end. He said, back then, everybody was American unity or looking out for their children to have jobs. They didn't want other people coming from other places kidnapping all the positions for their children to get a start. Kidnapping positions. That is a powerful phrase. For a long time, trucking was a legacy business. It was something the father passed down to his son. You bought a truck, you built a business, and you knew that if your kid wanted to work hard, he could make a good living doing the same thing. That was the American dream. You build something and you pass it on. But who wants to pass this current industry on to their children? Be honest with me. If you are an OTR driver right now, do you want your son to follow in your footsteps? Do you want your daughter to be out there on the road in this environment? Probably not. Because the positions have been kidnapped. They have been stolen by a system that prioritizes cheap labor over American families. When the rates are suppressed by foreign drivers who send their money out of the country, that is wealth being stolen from our community. When the safety of the highway is compromised by drivers who didn't earn their CDL, that is security being stolen from our family. The older gentleman remembers a time when we protected our own, when we prioritized unity. Now we prioritize efficiency. We prioritize cheap. And the result is a broken industry where the veterans, the guys who built this country, are being pushed out to make room for the replacements. So, what do? We can sit here and be nostalgic. We can say, man, I wish it was 1985 again. But time only moves in one direction. We can't go back. However, we can look at why the 80s were better, and we could try to find that same dynamic in today's market. Why was the 80s better? High barrier to entry. English was required. Communities were tight-knit and vetted. Rates reflected the skill. If you look at OTR trucking today, none of these things exist. But if you look at Final Mile, they do. This is why I preach the box truck business so hard. It's not just because I like box trucks. It's because Final Mile is the last place in this industry that still looks like the good old days that the gentleman is talking about. Think about it. In Final Mile, the barrier to entry is high. Now legally, anyone can buy a truck, but operationally, you cannot fake it in Final Mile. You have to have a real business entity. You have to pass strict background checks from retailers. You have to have insurance that actually vet your drivers. In Final Mile, English is not optional. It's mandatory. The gentleman said back in the day you couldn't get assistance if you didn't belong. Well, in Final Mile, if you can't communicate with the homeowner, you don't get the route, period. The market enforces the standards that the government refuses to enforce. In Final Mile, we have that unity he talked about. We build relationships with our contract holders. I know the warehouse managers, I know the operations managers, and they know me. If a guy comes in there acting a fool, trying to undercut everyone with shady practices, he doesn't last. The warehouse managers don't want headaches. They want reliability. They want professionals. The kidnapping of positions haven't happened in Final Mile yet because the kidnappers can't do the job. The guy who buys a fake CDL and sleeps in his truck for 3 weeks to haul cheap freight, he cannot install a refrigerator. He cannot handle a white glove delivery. He cannot represent brands like Amazon, Lowe's, or Best Buy. He is locked out of my lane. So when I read this comment from the older gentleman, it makes me sad for what we lost on the highway, but it makes me fierce about protecting what we have left in the neighborhoods. We have to draw a line in the sand. We have to be the ones who say, no, we aren't going to lower our standards. If you're still trying to play the OTR game, you are fighting a battle that was lost 20 years ago. You are fighting against a global labor force that is being subsidized by the very government that is supposed to protect you. You are playing a game where the rules are written against you. But if you pivot, if you come over the Final Mile, you can still find that dignity. You can still build a business that you will be proud to pass down to your children. I started my company, NBR Transportation, because I wanted to be free. I wanted to make money, yes, but I also wanted to control my own destiny. I didn't want a broker telling me what I was worth. I didn't want to compete with a ghost fleet. I found that freedom in the box truck game, and I want you to find it too. The older gentleman who left that comment, thank you. Thank you for reminding us of what trucking is supposed to be. Thank you for reminding us that American unity used to mean something. And to the rest of you watching, don't let his warning go to waste. He told you what happened. He told you how we got there. Now it is up to us to decide where we go next. Are we going to stay going on a sinking ship of OTR, or are we going to build a new life raft and final mile? I've given you the blueprint. I put the entire strategy on this channel for free. I'm not hiding anything behind a paywall because, like the gentleman said, we need to look out for each other. We need to help our own get a start. That's what this channel is about. So respect the old school, listen to the warnings, but move like a modern businessman. Get off the interstate, get into the contracts, and let's take back the industry one route at a time. Also, check out the video below where I talk about starting a trucking business with business credit versus cash. In this video, I break down the pros and cons of both options so you can choose the best path for your situation. Now also, don't forget to smash that like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your post notifications so you know when I drop another video. Once again, this is Marcellus with Trucking with MBR. I'll see you on the next video.